Alright folks, let's talk about the self-proclaimed Emperor of Chaos, Donald Trump. You know, the guy who used to drop bombshells and say whatever insane thing came to his mind back when that actually got attention. But now it's just sad. This guy used to shock the world. Yeah, he'd say something outrageous, and the whole nation would hold its breath, wondering if it was actually happening. But now he just looks like an old man shouting at clouds. Remember the days when Trump was the man with the plan? He'd throw out these big ideas like he was some kind of mastermind, like taking Greenland or invading Venezuela. Remember that? He was convinced he was going to make America great again by scooping up oil in places like Venezuela. Never mind the fact that Venezuela's oil doesn't even belong to us, right? He was out here claiming it was stolen from America, like we should just go in and take it back. Imagine the gall. And don't even get me started on his little great plan to take over Greenland. Yeah, that was a real showstopper. He was out there talking like Denmark was just going to hand it over because the EU supposedly wanted us to have it. Like, seriously? Dude, it's 2026, not 1800, and we're not in the business of just snatching land from other countries anymore. At least, I hope we're not. His grand vision of conquering the world and restoring the US to some mythical imperial glory. It's all just a sad joke. The more he talks, the more it becomes clear. His so-called empire isn't about world dominance. It's about embarrassing himself, one failed threat at a time. Alright, let's dive into one of Trump's favorite obsessions, Venezuela and its oil. Now, we all know Trump has a thing for oil, but his whole Venezuela stole our oil thing, that's a whole different level of delusion. I mean, seriously, the guy went on and on about how the oil in Venezuela was stolen from the US. Like what? Since when does Venezuela owe America their oil? Last time I checked, that stuff belongs to Venezuela, not us. But hey, who needs facts when you've got a big ego and a bigger oil appetite, right? And then there's the dream he keeps selling us, like American oil companies swooping in to save Venezuela. Yeah, because that's exactly what the world needs. More American companies pumping out resources from a country that's already been plundered. But Trump? He's all about fixing it by taking the oil back, with no regard for the actual people or economy of Venezuela. He's like, we're going to rebuild Venezuela's oil infrastructure, and it won't cost us a dime. But what he really means is, we'll send in our buddies from Exxon and Chevron to rake in the cash while the Venezuelan people suffer. And the way he talks about it, like it's his personal right to take whatever he wants. I mean, listen to this gem. We're going to take back what they stole. The audacity to say that like it's a personal theft against the United States. It's almost laughable if it wasn't so dangerously misguided. Trump's whole narrative is about feeding his own greed and playing the savior while pretending to help a country he's only interested in for its resources. The guy doesn't care about the people of Venezuela, just the oil. What a surprise. Trump, the self-proclaimed messiah of geopolitics, all set to save Venezuela, but only if he gets a piece of the pie. It's almost comical watching him sit there and act like he's the chosen one to fix all of Venezuela's problems. I mean, seriously? The same guy who couldn't manage his own businesses is suddenly the global savior? What's next? He's going to tell us he's going to cure world hunger with a few tweets. Please. And then there's his support system. You know, guys like Lindsey Graham who just hang around nodding and agreeing like they're some kind of cheerleaders for Trump's little fantasy world. Watching these guys throw around threats like they're playing Monopoly is borderline embarrassing. They're like those sidekicks in bad action movies. You know, the ones who are all bark, no bite. Lindsey, for example, sounds like he's about to break into tears every time he talks about Venezuela. Oh, Cuba, your days are numbered. Really, Lindsey? Are you the one who's going to single-handedly change the course of history by screaming into a microphone? Trump loves calling Venezuela a toxic neighbor, like he's some kind of geopolitical superhero battling evil on the world stage. Meanwhile, the only thing he's doing is poking the bear with a stick and calling it a victory when it growls back. Let's be real. He's not conquering the world, he's just making threats that sound like a bad reality TV show. Every speech, every tweet, it's like a trailer for a movie that nobody wants to see. All it takes is a couple of empty threats, a few powerful-looking words, and boom, Trump's convinced he's the hero of the story. Too bad the rest of us aren't buying the script. Greenland, Trump's new shiny toy, and if you've been paying attention, you know he's been obsessed with it. I mean, can someone explain to me why this guy is so fixated on a giant block of ice and snow? It's like he watched a documentary on Russia's Arctic ambitions and thought, yeah, I want some of that. So what does he do? He starts making these absurd claims that the EU is just dying to give Greenland to the US for national security reasons. National security. Buddy, Greenland's not the next big real estate deal on the market, but somehow Trump's out here acting like Denmark is going to hand over a major piece of land because the EU just wants us to have it. It's honestly laughable. And don't get me started on how he keeps talking about Greenland's strategic importance. He's been shouting about how critical Greenland is to US defense, like the world's about to collapse if we don't get our hands on it. What's he even talking about? Does he think that owning Greenland will somehow make us the new superpower in the Arctic? Newsflash, Donald. There are more important things than a vast frozen wilderness with a handful of residents. But hey, if you think owning it makes you a global leader, sure, go ahead. It's like he's trying to copy Putin's playbook. Grab whatever you can, claim it's for national security, and then act like you're the big boss on the global stage. But here's the thing, Trump's playing pretend. He's trying to act like some geopolitical chess master, but all he's doing is making random moves without even understanding the game. This isn't The Apprentice, buddy. You can't just win by throwing your weight around and demanding what you want. The world's not your personal pawn shop. Oh, here we go again. Trump's favorite move, manipulating the truth. And his favorite line, we're gonna take back the oil. Yeah, that's the line he keeps throwing out there like it's some kind of magic phrase that justifies everything. The thing is, when he says, we're gonna take back the oil, what he really means is, we're going to make up a bunch of lies and act like the oil belongs to us, and then we'll try to scare everyone into thinking the world is at risk because Venezuela won't give us what we want. Classic Trump. But here's where it gets really wild. Trump and his allies are like a broken record when it comes to creating this threat narrative. Everything's an emergency, every country is a threat, and every situation needs military intervention because apparently that's the only language Trump understands. Venezuela stole our oil, he says. That's why their economy's falling apart. So wait, let me get this straight. The reason Venezuela is a mess isn't because of decades of mismanagement or sanctions or internal issues. Nah, it's because they took our oil? Hilarious. And then he has the audacity to say that the civil unrest and protests in Venezuela are somehow justified because they took our oil. Really? So if someone takes a cookie from your jar, that's reason enough to go all out with sanctions and military threats? Right. That's a real mature, measured response. What Trump doesn't get is that he's just feeding a narrative of fear and division because that's what he does best. It's all about creating chaos so he can swoop in like the savior and look like he's fixing it all. But it's all a game. A sad, childish game of manipulation where the facts are twisted, and the truth is whatever he needs it to be in order to look good. Venezuela's economy isn't struggling because they stole our oil. It's because of systemic issues that won't be fixed by Trump waving his oil-craving wand. But hey, who cares about reality when you're making headlines, right? All right, let's talk about one of Trump's most bizarre moves, his support for Nicolas Maduro, the self-proclaimed dictator of Venezuela. I mean, seriously, what's going on here? This is the guy who spent years railing against authoritarianism and tyranny, yet somehow finds himself cozying up to one of the worst dictators in the Western Hemisphere. The irony? It's so thick you could cut it with a knife. Trump says he wants a strong leader in Venezuela, but not a democratic one. Oh no, he wants an authoritarian puppet that he can control. And why? Because it fits into his plan to exploit Venezuela's resources, mainly their oil. You see, for Trump, it's not about spreading freedom and democracy. It's about control. It's about getting a leader who will let America's oil companies come in and rake in all the profits. He's not interested in the well-being of the Venezuelan people. He's interested in making sure his friends in the oil business get their cut. It's laughable, right? Trump claims he's all about making America great and spreading democracy. But here he is, supporting a regime that represses its own people, silences opposition, and rigs elections. What happened to the whole freedom and liberty thing? Oh wait, that only applies when it's convenient. When it comes to oil and power, all of a sudden, authoritarianism doesn't look so bad. Funny how that works, huh? And let's be real, Trump probably sees Venezuela as his personal playground. A country he can manipulate and extract resources from, all while pretending he's some sort of hero. In his mind, Venezuela isn't a sovereign nation with people who deserve respect and self-determination. It's a resource, just another piece of the puzzle in his twisted vision of global domination. All right, here's the big picture. Trump's entire approach to foreign policy, especially when it comes to countries like Venezuela, is basically a mix of threats, manipulation, and straight-up exploitation. He's not interested in diplomacy, negotiation, or, God forbid, actual peace. No, Trump's idea of handling international relations is domination. He doesn't want cooperation, he wants control. And how does he plan on getting it? Simple. Through threats, military intervention, and stealing resources like oil. If he gets his way, we're looking at a world where every country is either under his thumb or a target for US intervention. It's honestly terrifying when you stop and think about it. Let's break it down. Trump seriously believes that military operations in Latin America are the answer to just about everything. Need to solve a political crisis? Bomb it into submission? Oil problem? Send in the troops. It's a game to him, and the stakes are nothing less than global stability. But for Trump, it's all about one thing: control. Venezuela's oil, Greenland's land, Cuba's future, they're all just pieces in his personal game of risk. And if that means military action to get what he wants, well, that's just part of the plan. And don't forget the most Trumpian part of all, the delusion that the world owes him something. He genuinely thinks the US is entitled to these resources, that other nations should hand them over because he's Donald Trump. It's as if he sees global politics like a giant business transaction where everyone has to give up what they have for the good of his empire. It's as if he's never heard of sovereignty or diplomacy, just a big loud guy throwing his weight around, expecting everyone to bend the knee. So in the end, what do we get? A weak leader with a fragile ego using military might to get what he wants, ignoring the lives and futures of entire countries in the process. Trump isn't interested in making the world safer. He's interested in making himself richer and more powerful. And if that means risking global chaos for some oil and control, well, that's just how he rolls.